Just kind of as a last update, what have you seen from Taman and Joshua in terms of recovery?
Yeah, Taman's great. I think today he had his best practice he's had since he's been back. You know, it takes a little bit when you're out to get that rhythm. Taman does a great job making decisions and plays for others. You know, getting on the glass, being an elite defender on the basketball, and just overall, you know, bringing winning things. It felt like today you start to see more of his decision making, understanding for guys' strengths, how to put people in position to be successful, and that's tremendous. With Joshua, again, similar timeline. Those guys have been back on, just trying to get his legs underneath him. What we've seen from Joshua is a guy at the forward position who can make plays off the bounce, really good passer, very cerebral, anticipator on both sides of the ball, and somebody that we feel like is, you know, is definitely going to be an impact guy for us.
How many more practices do you guys have allotted?
Yeah, we just practice. Tomorrow's our last day, and then our guys go home for about 3. They have the ability to go home for about 3 weeks.
Joshua's injury happened a while before coming here. Do you think that helped from a mental perspective for him? You know, coming in as a new guy, watching guys get acclimated while he couldn't really do it physically, he could just kind of, okay, I've got a timeline already kind of set up.
Well, I think it can work both ways, right? Because I think from a mindset mentality, you're able to see it, right? You're able to watch what does it look like, what are the demands, what are the rotations on defense, what are the things you're looking for in offense, what are the plays you need to make. So you get to see that, and then the challenging side of it is when you're not out there, you don't quite feel as connected to the group always, and there's probably a little bit of just mentally of when I come back, you know, this is a fast pace. This is you know, there's a lot of work going on, and how am I going to jump back into that? But he's done a fantastic job.
Taman, similarly, well, I guess different, you know, having gone through it a few times and knowing what's ahead of him, how has his mental state been throughout the whole process from surgery to rehab and now getting back on the court?
Yeah, I mean, Taman competes in everything that he does, right? Everything's about his character and his competitive spirit, and that's no different when he's had this challenge with injury. You got to compete in different ways, being verbal, being vocal with your teammates, watching film, studying, understanding. You did that, and then doing the right things. With Vic does an unbelievable job in the training room and doing the rehab things and just getting back. It's important that when you have an injury or something that puts you out, that you don't allow yourself to disconnect, that you stay engaged. And Taman's competed from that vantage point, which has allowed his game and things basketball-wise to come back as well.
From your staff's perspective, and not to get too into the details, but when Joshua comes in and he's already started rehab and already had surgery, how do you guys diagnose your own timeline of getting him back on track and getting him through the final steps of that?
Yeah, it's working with the folks at St. Mary's and kind of what they saw, what they thought, what their medical professionals saw, then combine that with what we see and what we think the best plan is, and then Vic combining those two, and then also having Joshua be, you know, included and invested in that plan, because again, as you're coming back, there's certain things that make sense medically, and then there's the element for each individual. Things can feel different, or how you come back can be different from one person to another. And so his investment, his communication has been something we've really valued through that process. It seems right now that he's got that rhythm. There's still things we have to be mindful of as we're moving forward, but it seems like from a, you know, being fully cleared and being able to participate, that we're at that point now. And so I think, you know, even as he's gone for the last week or whatever it's been where he's been out there live, it'll be good for him to have some time to get off of that leg in the live competition and then come back again in the fall.
It's the roster continuity, I guess, at least in the backcourt, done for you guys this summer in terms of how you put the pieces together?
Yeah, it helps immensely, especially, I mean, it's the continuity, but it's great guys who are great players, whose games fit together, whose skill sets offensively and defensively are really good. So when you have a base of things that you know you can count on, we certainly don't take those things for granted. We want to reconnect every day with those habits and doing what we need to do. But when it's, you know, good guys who are good players, who fit together well, who enjoy playing together, that sets a tone for everything that you do. And I think that helps create, you know, a mindset amongst the group of what we can do together each and every day. And huge credit to those guards.
What have you guys been able to experiment with? I mean, without Taman, without Joshua, has that changed what you've would have otherwise liked to have tried out in terms of combinations, obviously?
Yeah, no, and certainly, when Taman's not to be out there, gives Keyshawn a lot of reps at the point. It also gives you opportunity to look and say, okay, if at some point we have a challenge, who would that third guy be that would initiate offense? And I think there's guys like Kurt or Nate Heisey that could do that. I mean, Noyes was doing a good job of that when he was here as well. So I think it gave us opportunity to see different guys, the plays they make and decisions they make. Not that we just only run, pick and roll offense for one guy, or it's only one guy's responsibility to handle the ball and organize the offense, but it gives you a chance to look at some other guys. And then with Joshua out, what it's afforded us the opportunity to do is look at, 4 guard lineups, whether Joshua, where he settles in from a positional standpoint, remains to be seen. We've liked him at the 4. We've liked him at times as a small ball 5. He's been good that way too. And so what it does is it gives you chances to look at other guys in those positions and have 4 guards out there and have 4 perimeter players, find a way offensively to create more action and movement, and find a way defensively to try to be more disruptive with quicker foot speed.
No, he's not necessarily the same player as, say, like a Demarion, but does he give you the same type of, I guess, positional flexibility? Because Demarion can guard probably 2 to 5 at times, and what are there some similarities there in terms of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a huge plus, right, when guys can play multiple positions, and a big part of playing multiple positions, being able to defend multiple positions. And we've seen that from Demarion, where he's been really good against opponents when they have a wing or a big wing that's an aggressive scorer. He's been good there. He's also been great at guarding, maybe some 4 men where he can be disruptive. And I think Joshua, playing those 2 positions can provide a similar dynamic, certainly. They both have unique characteristics that make their games stand out, and things that they do to really help our team. But, from a vantage point of defensive versatility, certainly both guys have that.
You talked about having good guys that want to work hard. Have you seen that being able to transcend the, level of expectation from the outside that is being put upon these guys, at least throughout the summer?
Yeah, I think what's important for all of us to stay connected to, whether it's players or the outside expectation or any of those things, is, the team that we were in November last year was a lot different than the team we were in March. And part of that was we continued to work every day and we continue to improve. And no different this season. Maybe the fact that you return a lot of guys, you feel like there's a base and you have a foundation more so in place earlier of how things need to go, but it's still going to be that same challenge of doing the hard work every day and continuing to improve throughout the season. Because if you're not to get better and be playing your best, February and into March, those games are really hard to win. And so I think our guys keeping focus on the same thing we focused on last year, daily habits, let's get better every day, and hopefully, that can continue to push us forward.
Is patience a component of that? Those guys knowing you're not going to be who you are in March, you can't even be who you were last March, today or tomorrow or any of that. You got to work up to it.
Yeah, there's probably always that blend of patience and urgency. The patience to know that there's a lot of work ahead and you're going to continue to improve. It's not going to be your A+ right out of the box probably. There's going to be things you have to clean up and work on. And at the same time, a tremendous sense of urgency, because where we've been okay up to this point is trying to get off to good start the season with a lot of urgency to be at our, the best that we can be going to that first game, and certainly not taking anybody for granted. And I think that's what we've been able to establish over the first 3 seasons, and this is going to be important more than any, that we have that same humility to how we work, and yet, urgency and then patience as well of where we can get to.
Over the last few years, you've seen second-year transfers just take off at various schools. Keyshawn is someone who obviously came in second team after 12 guy. What's the process of him kind of having that similar leap as he enters his second year in the program?
For him, I think, more than, his talent is real, and his ability to, be a downhill attacking, playmaking guard who, in all of our big wins, he had such a huge impact and made so many winning plays. I think it's for him, it's staying in that mindset at all times. It's being mentally at a place where he tries to lock into being his best version of himself at all times, not being frustrated if something is not to go his way, a foul call, a turnover, things like that. We demand and expect so much from him because he is such a great player. We do have so much confidence in him. And I think for him to take that necessary step, it's not even as much about physical things or things he can do on the court. It's about him feeling like, all right, I'm a senior, I'm a veteran, I've been through this before, and no matter what happens to me out there, my competitive spirit, making winning plays is always going to be present. And I think that's the step for him, and I'm confident he'll take it.
How have you seen him progress in those areas this summer as Taman hasn't been able to play and he's been able to take more of that on-ball leadership role?
Yeah, he's been really good. I think for him, he's a great decision maker with the basketball. He's a guy that gets in the paint, gets downhill, creates, havoc for the defense. He gets fouled a ton. He's shooting the catch and shoot three-point shot with confidence. And with all that being said, I think his game starts and is always predicated with his on-ball defense and getting loose balls and being that pit bull of a defender, and that's what sets up his game. When you see him play well offensively, it's because defensively he's bringing that mentality, and then it comes into play offensively as well. So we've seen a lot of great things from Keyshawn this summer.
You mentioned a blend of patience, patience and urgency. How important is it to balance that effectively now that you wind down these practices, head into work condition? More time of guys not being on their own, but having a little bit more time away, not necessarily in the group.
Yeah, I think it is important that they get the time away. We've been at this for 8 weeks together, and now everybody has an idea. If you're new into our program, what the demands are, what the standards are, what the daily habits are, how we work, what the fundamentals of our offense and defense are, and how we pour into one another and play for one another. So now you have a great picture of that. We can tell you it in the recruiting process, but until you experience it and go through it every day, not exactly sure what that might be. And now, as they have these few weeks in between, I think it's important that you have the right mindset to get away mentally so you can just kind of recharge and spend time with your family and your friends, loved ones, that sort of thing. And at the same time, not getting too far away from the habits that you've built, because for so many, the work that they've done, Pete Link's done a terrific job in the weight room with our guys, and how they've, for some, have changed their body. For others, maybe have added some strength or muscle. For some others, maybe have leaned up and feel like their body's moving better. Those things are important to keep in mind even as you take a break. You don't want to just go completely away from it. And again, I'm confident with the maturity of the guys that we have, and they understand what's in front of us, that they'll do a great job of getting away from it, but still having a level of focus on what needs to be at the forefront of their mind prior to returning and then when they return.
What sort of a unique dynamic does Joshua bring, just in terms of the skill that he provides at the forward position?
Yeah, his ability to drive the basketball is what stands out, and then when he does that, to pass on the move, that's a very unique skill. And he's almost 6'9", or right around 6'9", so someone that can do that at his size is great. He sees it a step ahead, a play ahead. I think part of it too is different defenses rotate differently and play things differently. So for him, what's going to be important is understanding when people switch a guard onto him, when people play him in a certain way, when he's driving, where rotations are coming from, where the passes and plays are. But he is a unique dynamic in terms of that skill set and being an advantage creator. And then ultimately, when you're a guy like that, a lot of times you see switching because people don't want to allow you to create that advantage. And for him, that's got to be a chance where we can post a matchup or get on the offensive boards or use his physicality to impose his will on the game. So I think on both offense and defense, his versatility is going to be something that we lean into.
You had a chance to watch the guys in the Olympics much?
Yeah, here and there I've been able to catch some moments. It's great. Yesterday I was driving home. My son Tyrese must have hit 2 threes right in the same stretch, and he was all fired up on the phone about that. And obviously, Mariel's had the great stretches. George has been relatively consistent and efficient as he has been. I know Melvin hadn't got the opportunities that he'd like or he'd hope to get. So. And then with Bab as well, with Germany having his moments. So I haven't had a ton of time to just sit and watch those. It's more getting the clips or the highlights or looking at following the game when we can. And then we get all that, and we still have Noyes playing with the FIBA U18s, and He's had some early games. I'm an early morning person, but when you're trying to get revved up to watch a 5 a.m. game a lot of these mornings, that can present some different challenges, but it's been fun to watch him and the successes he's had over there and communicate with him and build our trust and relationship as he's played in the FIBA and seeing how things have gone for him.